All right, folks, welcome to what I'm calling the Five Wise Men of Prepping. I want to thank these gentlemen for joining me. These are, as I told them, some of my favorite channels, and I hope to raise awareness to you if you have not subscribed to them to join them. And usual rules apply. Just be respectful to each other. And at the end, I might do a little question time for you all. So at the end of this, we'll open that up. If that happens, please put your question in all caps. Be respectful. Mods, you have full reign. Have a good group of people here, my very trusted mods who are on the ball and usually, and one of my mods with me here with Hudson Valley. But yeah, I just really appreciate y'all coming and joining us. So I'm going to introduce everybody. I've got the roaming prepper representing the great state of Texas. I've got Prepperdawg representing the great state of Georgia. I have got Mr. Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival representing the great state of New York. And I've got modern refugee, if I can speak, representing the great state of Michigan. So I, of course, in the free state of Central Maryland to stand. And we are just going to kind of go up. I've got some questions I'm going to be giving out to these gentlemen. We're going to go and start with roaming prepper, then go to Prepperdawg, go to Hudson, and then the modern refugee, and whatever I can add on. We'll do about 2 minutes on these questions. I've already given these gentlemen these questions. General prepping, some kind of worldly stuff, and from there, hopefully, you guys will get a lot out of it. I get a lot out of all of their channels. I watch all of these channels regularly. This is why they were chosen. And yeah, I'm a little nervous, Sally Sock Puckett. I'm not gonna lie. I've never done this before, and I'm not real up on the technology. So, but we're just gonna let it roll. So everybody, hit that like button, do the subscribe thing. Definitely subscribe to these people if you have not. Also, I got emailed by another prepper channel called Devil Dog Prepper, who's just passed 500 subscribers. If you could check his channel out and go on over there and give him. One thing I try to do is I love the prepper community. I think we should try to like be good for each other and promote. And you know, we'll definitely have some people out there that kind of do some crazy, but like to keep it positive and be promotional of everybody's channel, because the more preppers we have, I think we all can agree, the better things are going to be for the world. We are all here because of preppers, and so that's one thing I always get out of Modern Refugees channel is he talks about the old ways. We wouldn't be here without those old ways. So first question we're going to pose to roaming prepper in round robin, and then of course to the others, is why did you become a prepper and why did you start the channel that you have right now? Go ahead, roaming prepper.
Sure. No, and thanks for having me, man. It's great to be with these guys. I watch all you guys as well when I'm not in an airplane somewhere. So I'd probably been a prepper since I was younger, courtesy of my dad. He took me outdoors. He was a Korean War era guy. We'll leave it at that. And, stuck me through scouts, all the usual childhood things. What really got me was in college, I was actually headed to upstate New York and got caught in a whiteout blizzard and followed the plow trucks up 281 from Binghamton to Syracuse. And I had a bunch of gear in my bag, my guard gear. And I kind of thought, man, I'm kind of glad I have this. And that kind of spawned it all. I started the channel because I started traveling a lot at work. And I realized we spend at least a third of every day or quarter of every day not at home. And some of us more than that. And that's an important thing to keep in the back of our mind is we have to be prepared if we're in an airport, a hotel, or on the highway. And that kind of kicked off the channel and then it just evolved from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Great explanation. Prepperdawg, why don't you hook us up?
Yeah, I would say for me, it started back in the Great Recession. If you remember that, those of us old enough to remember back in 2008, 2009, I went through a job loss. I got caught up in a big layoff and I was not prepared for that. I've always had a job, so I was not prepared physically, mentally, spiritually to handle that. And I went through a tough time. The family went through a tough time, economically. It was to a point where we weren't prepared for a $500 automobile repair or just an economic rough time like that. We came within a whisker of losing our house, but we squeaked through. And I learned a lot from that and need to be better prepared just in general. Gone through some other weather situations where I should have been more prepared. So that's another thing. And then just the geopolitical landscape, elections recently, the last few elections, I'm like, dang, I need to get better prepared. So started the channel really from those concerns.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great explanation as well. Hudson Valley, why don't you hook us up?
How's it going, everybody? I'm Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival. I'm up here in what I like to call the People's Republic of New Yorkistan. We live under some draconian stuff here. And when they started to pass these insane gun laws here in New York, that's when the light bulb went off for me that everything could go bad really, really fast. And I better have my crap together or I'm not going to be able to get it after the fact. So that was the big step one. I started the channel because my good buddy NY Prepper and my buddy the Angry Prepper, they were both pushing me. They were like, you should do it, man. You should do it. You do this stuff all the time. You should start a channel. And so I had to figure out how to sit here and talk to a camera. So here I am, Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival. Nice to meet everybody.
Thank you, sir. Modern Refugee, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name's Modern Refugee, and as far as getting started in prepping or whatever, I was just raised that way. I was learning how to can stuff when I was 8 years old. Shot my first deer when I was like 14. We grew up that way. Mom and dad, we grew our own food. We canned it. We put it up. I just lived that lifestyle. I was just grown that way. And fast forward to about 2018, we were going on a hiking trip up to the Pictured Rocks, where I was basically informally guiding some friends of mine on a hike up there. And at that time, I was in a lot of Facebook groups regarded to, outdoors and prepping and stuff. And I just posted a picture that morning when we were getting ready of my coffee pot over the open fire and saying, it's a beautiful morning. I'm going to go have some coffee here, and then we're going to get our stuff in the truck and we're going to head up and we're going to go hiking. And I had somebody on one of those groups put a question in that said, this might sound like a dumb question, but how do you make coffee over an open campfire? And it was a legitimate question. So I answered them, told them how I did it and stuff. And when I started thinking about that, I'm like, there's people that literally don't know how to make coffee without, a Mr. Coffee maker. And then too, I've watched a lot of the old timers die, and I'm like, something could happen to me tomorrow, and everything that's in my head, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow and everything that I know is gone. So why don't I do something to preserve that knowledge? And my kids suggested, why don't you get on YouTube and start a channel? And that's basically what it is.
Awesome. Well, of course, I'm PrepperNow. I got my start. I watched Doomsday Preppers with Angry Prepper, and I was living in the New York City area at that time. And I thought, man, if he can do it living up there in, I think it was in Harlem or the Bronx, it's like I can do it out here in the burbs of New York City. We were living up in upstate kind of the burbs of Connecticut at the time, and got into prepping. And for some reason, I got this idea I needed a generator to keep the power on, because the year before we had a terrible ice storm and we were out of power for a long time. And I had a newborn, not newborn, but like 9-month-old. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to get a generator. And sure enough, 2 months later, Superstorm Sandy hit. And because I had that generator, I was literally the only lights on in the entire neighborhood. And it was eerie because I was the only lights on in the entire neighborhood. And I thought, man, I got to do more. And, I'm looking at this little baby who just turned 13 years old. And I'm like, man, I got to do this. And I kind of got into prepping because of growing up in the South. I've lived in South Carolina, Georgia, not too far away. I was actually in Savannah, Prepperdawg, but and then North Carolina. So I was very accustomed to hurricanes. And I'll never forget, Dottie came through. I think it was 1978. We were living in Savannah, Georgia, and it's probably one of the scariest nights of my life. And it just forever has kind of made me be into preparedness and being ready, because we didn't have a basement. I remember holding on to my family to dear life in the middle of that a hallway in a little old, Georgia rancher. And it changed me. And so since then, with hurricanes and everything else, I just got into prepping. And then all of a sudden one day, Rona, as I affectionately call it, hit. And I thought, you know what? I got all the time on my hand. I'm working from home now. I'm going to turn on the camera and just do a YouTube channel for the heck of it on prepping, thinking I was going to create something new. And sure enough, I found all these awesome channels, starting with people like Magic Prepper and, and then eventually got to know people like Pinball and Angry, and who let me mod and everything, and watch their channels grow. And then like Alaska Prepper, and just really fell in love with the community and really fell in love with prepping. I had all the stuff, but still was just like, you know what? This is a lifestyle. This is a community that I think is important. And then being a history teacher, I started to connect the dots. It's like, man, we are here because of prepping. It's because all of our ancestors did things to preserve us, to preserve the food. And it just was so important. And as we saw with what was going on in 2020, and now as we get, it seems every year it gets crazier. I don't think prepping's ever been more important, because we really do face a lot of uncertainty. And so with that, I'm going to open it up to the next question. And that is, what is the biggest concern do you think we have as a nation right now? And what are you doing to prepare for it? And we'll go back to the round robin of Mr. Roaming Prepper, please.
Shoot, this one's a tough one. You look at everything that's going on, it's very multifaceted. You get a lot of people talking about, Russia, China. They're obviously, how would I say, opponents geopolitically and economically. I think a lot of our threats are closer to home. Poorly run infrastructure, bad practices on the part of government in restricting farms, homesteading. And, it could even be something as simple as some guy with a laptop decides, I'm going to knock the grid out of, Wisconsin this week. I believe the threats, the most imminent dangers are usually the ones closest to home. Again, the tornadoes and hurricanes are a no-brainer. I think if it's man-made, it's going to be that cybersecurity, cyber event. It's a very low-cost, high-reward kind of scenario. An EMP is possible, but somebody has to pop a nuke somewhere, and that's going to attract attention. They hacked a bunch of companies a few years ago, and they never found out who did it.
Yeah, that was the Solar Winds thing, wasn't it?
Absolutely correct.
Yep.
And the pipeline.
Yep.
And that's the thing. Those are just two, and there's probably another 50 beyond it that we've all had discussions about that we can't even remember. There's so many of them now.
Yeah, they just pay the ransom.
Yeah,
they really do.
So posing that to Prepperdawg, biggest concern. What is the biggest concern, Prepperdawg, of the nation we have right now, and what are you doing to prep for it?
I would say similar to Roaming Prepper. I would say it's closer to home. The unforeseen thing, they can just come right out of left field and just sucker punch us. I mean, or most people. Most of us are prepared for a lot of things, but the majority of the people are not. So something like a terrorist attack. Something like not even it doesn't have to be on a scale of a 9/11, but even just something smaller than that. Maybe something even bigger than that. Something like that. So I think, if you think about the last few years and all of the people who've come through our borders, we know nothing much about all the military aged males who have come through here and are in the country. We don't know what they're doing. What are they up to? What are they planning? It could be something spring from that. We don't know. What are they going to hit? It could be cyber. It could be physical attacks, maybe the grid again, back a few years ago when they were hitting the substations, and, if you hit enough of them, we don't have power, so something like that. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what it would be, but how do we prepare? I think, and what am I doing? Just the same thing. I mean, trying to be a little more self-sustaining than I was last year. You know,
Well, I'll mention something what Dog said right there. You know, take a drive around and look at the substations in your neighborhood. And I've actually done videos on this too. See how much security is there. There isn't any on none of them.
Zero.
All of this infrastructure that we depend on every day has zero security. You know, maybe county sheriff drives by that place once a day if you're lucky.
You know, what's
Absolutely
even
correct.
scarier is larger scale things. We had a refinery in Houston, an SUV supposedly lost control. It looked like a legitimate wreck and went about 200 yards into the refinery and hit a valve and caught fire. And, you know, obviously there was a fatality there. But that was an idiot driving. What if someone, a bad player, went and put something pyrotechnic in the vehicle and then drove that same distance? That would clear out a whole quarter of the third largest city in America. I mean, you're right on point, both of y'all.
Hudson Valley, what do you think? Biggest concern for nation right now, and what are you doing to prep for it?
Honestly, I'm torn. I'm torn between the breakout of World War III hot, and I'm torn between something domestic, man. They've been flying nuke sniffing helicopters over DC since about Thanksgiving, and it's, you know, it's got the money hairs in the back of my neck up. So that's something that's out of the norm, and makes me a little nervous. What am I doing to prep for it? I've ordered gas masks, man. Gas masks for the family. Merry Christmas, everybody. You know, I don't want to be paranoid. I want to be prepared, you know? And I think, putting 3 minutes, man, you get 3 minutes without air. That's it. You know, and the rule of threes, that's the first one you need to worry about. Then you can worry about the water and the shelter and everything else. But if you don't have breathable air for 3 minutes, you're toast. So that's a big thing for me right now, especially with Indian Point still being about 50 miles away from me. And, you know, now that everybody here is an adult and I don't have small children in the house, I can just, you know, run the gambit of CBRN adult masks and teach the family proper donning and doffing of PPE. But that's kind of where my head's at right now, man. I'm like I said, I don't want to be scared. I want to be prepared. So I'm gonna do it now and hope that I never ever freaking need those things and they rot away in the closet forever.
Yep. Modern Refugee, you're up. Biggest concern.
This, you know, I was around a lot of old timers that talked about World War II and the Depression and stuff, and where sort of the conflict meter is right now. It's basically the same as what it was in 1939. And the problem is now is in 1939, we made all our own stuff. Now we make nothing.
Yep.
And I don't think people can wrap their head around it, or, you know, a lot of people I know to a certain extent too are in denial over it. If we do business with people that don't like us, and it's been like that a long time, you know, if the stuff stops coming over the Pacific Ocean from that side of the world and the energy stops coming from the Middle East on the other side, what is everybody's individual world going to look like? You know, you're not going to be able to go get a part to fix your car yourself. You're not going to be able to just go up to your big box store in the neighborhood and grab this or that. And then how is that going to affect pretty much everything? You know, you look at your food distribution, whatever, you know, all that stuff depends on that supply chain. And if that supply chain doesn't exist anymore because of conflict, the average American and, you know, people in Canada too, the lifestyle, your lifestyle that you're living now is going to seem like Beverly Hills if that takes place. And like I said, that's just what you know, and that isn't even counting in any type of rationing or anything like that. That's just if there's basic, you know, hostilities. And as far as what I'm doing to prep, I'm just doing the same thing that I always do. You know, we put up as much food, we take care of ourselves. You know, we try to maintain everything to the best of our economic ability. But then the one thing that I want to mention too is that I don't think it's talked about a lot in prepping channels, especially, is when people talk about skills, but using those skills to make money, no matter what the economic situation is, being able to have some type of a marketable skill, no matter what things are, to make do with that, to make some kind of money out of that. Because whether we like it or not, whether the, you know, people have been talking about the dollar collapsing for years, but You know, if that ability to make money in the situation that you're in, I'm here to tell you, is going to be very, very valuable. And you know, it's an economic thing. I guess that's my outlook on that. You know, being able to operate in any economic climate.
Well, that is an excellent point, because you do have to sustain yourself even in an SHTF. So, and all answers, all of you were excellent. My thing is probably cyber, a hack of some sort that could possibly, you know, take out power or take down a financial system. And then, of course, financials. I worry more about kinetic hot war here in the next 5 years. But I think the financial wars are really kind of out there. There's a lot of course, interesting things that are going on right now with the collapse of Syria yesterday. But I think the more I'm worried about is, what do things look like in a job loss or something like that, or someone getting, you know, as Prepperdawg was saying, you know, let go, and you're sitting there and you're in a recession and there's no jobs out there and you don't have anything set aside. You know, as long as you have food set aside, you can make it. You'll be all right. There's another person I talked to in the background here called Conserve Friends. He has the same story. He said 2008 he lost his job, but sure enough, he had food. He was prepping and he was able to sustain and move on. So I think financial is the main one for me. And after reading the book 1 second after, an EMP or some kind of a cyber takedown of either financial or infrastructure is a really big worry of mine. So on that note, go ahead.
Myself right now, I'm coming off an emergency hernia surgery that I had a little less than 2 weeks ago. Wow. And we basically haven't been to the store since then, because we've just used the stuff out of our freezer and out of our pantry, because my wife has pneumonia too. So neither one of us have been working, and you know, it's always got to be in December. Yeah. You know, a full pantry. My grandmother always said that a full pantry is the best investment you can have, because you can always fall back on that. I'm sorry, I don't mean to like hijack the conversation there.
No, well, it's
no, not at all.
It's good point. Good point.
It's funny, because my next question is, what is the most important thing to have prepped? So we'll roll off of that. Go ahead, roaming prepper. What do you think?
To segue from this point, honestly, you know, a lot of people think SHTF, a big hurricane, a tornado, EMP. You know, we can think these 10% likely scenarios, and I'm a big fan. You know, I'm an engineer, so I'm thinking Pareto, and the 80-20 rule in my mind, or the 90-10, is you prep for the 90% most likely stuff, and indirectly, you're going to probably do a pretty good job of prepping for that unlikely 10%. And SHTF doesn't necessarily come in the form of, you know, the apocalypse. It could be a car accident and a spouse is in the hospital for 6 months, or you get laid off. Yeah. Or, you know, you have an extended power outage purely because a truck crashed into something. You know, there's so many scenarios. We had a city out here in Texas. They were doing construction and the water mains failed. And we had a city of 200,000 people with no water out of the blue for 4 days. And what happened is they wiped out their area, and then they went out to like my city and started buying up everything there. And my wife read that and went, we're going to double up on the water, because we're in a very arid area. So that's definitely a concern. But the food, the water, the fundamentals, they don't just apply to the apocalypse. It could be a layoff, an emergency surgery like you just had. It absolutely can take the pressure off and give you some options. So, yeah.
Good answer. Prepperdawg, what do you think? Most important thing? Oh, he's muted.
As far as most important preps, I would say for me, spiritual is number one, of course.
Okay.
That's where it all starts and flows from. Because if you're not right there, then you know that a lot can happen there. So that's number one. I mean, other than that, I mean, that's just first thing that pops in my brain. Other than that, just from personal experience, just financial, as far as like when I went through that layoff, there was a time when I was not prepared for a $500 emergency.
Yeah.
And I had to rely on somebody else, and that's tough to ask for help when I've never had to, practically never had to before, as an adult, especially. So being able to be able to sustain something like that, a personal emergency, health, a flat tire, the car. There was a time when I was praying every time I cranked up the car, like, don't break down now. I can't even afford a dang repair. I was holding together a 1999 Accord. I was holding together literally the front end with duct tape every 2 weeks. I was taping up those, so I look back on those days and I'm like, wow. But we're in a much better position right now. I mean, not like we'd really like to be, but a lot better now. So financial, I think, is probably the best. Your budget, what you have saved back, or of course the food and water bill stuff, but financials first is next.
Sure. All right, Hudson Valley, you're up, man. Someone was asking about firearms. Maybe we'll go that direction. Go ahead. Security.
Security. Should I do security? You want me to do security? I live in the People's Republic of New Yorkistan. So security for me is this bottle of juice here. I can cock back and throw it as hard as I can, and probably not go to prison for the rest of my life. But anything else is going to put me in jail.
WD-40.
Yeah. I mean, that, harsh language and hope. You got to have good feet, man. You got to have good legs. You got to run away here in New York. That's the law. You have to run away and hide. So that's our gig here, and that's the only means of self-defense I have. No, I'm just kidding. But you should definitely have means of self-defense, and I think the most important prep is water, man. You got to have water and good shelter. You got to have. We live in the Northeast. If I don't have a heated dwelling, I'm going to die real soon. So I need heat. I got to have it. It's wintertime. So I would say make sure you have a warm place to be, man. That's number one. And if that ties into your finances, whatever that ties into, if you live in a place that has winter, you need to have a place that has heat. I would say that's the number one thing. If it's firewood, if it's oil, if it's electric, however it is, just make sure that you have it and can sustain it as long as possible.
All right. Modern Refugee, what do you think? You already kind of gave us a little hint, but you can expand upon it.
Well, everybody should look at the things that they use every day and then have redundancies for it. So if, my furnace quits, how am I going to stay warm? If the water stops coming out of my tap, how am I going to get water? Have a secondary, the old PACE plan thing. In every single situation. At the grocery store, I go to the grocery store, there's nothing on the shelf. Depending on the time of year it is or whatever, I can rely on my pantry, or, I got my garden going. Those redundancies are key, and they're going to be different for every person that's out there. But you need to look at those redundancies and have something in place. And I'm going to mention another financial one right here too. Have your bills paid up to the best of your ability, because if something happens and you're already delinquent 30 days on your electric bill or whatever that it is, now you're the chance of you getting shut off in the middle of winter because you didn't pay the bill because you let something slide too long. If something happens now, all my bills are paid up. Like, I just had surgery, my bills are paid up. So if I got to let something slide in a couple of weeks, I don't risk, falling into that trap. And, I think pretty much anybody that's lived paycheck to paycheck knows that, that if you don't pay your bills, the electric company doesn't care one way or another whether you got something going on. They just want their money, so to always have stuff paid up to the best of your ability, that gives you more time to figure the current problem out, if that makes sense on how I explained it.
Oh, all of you, excellent answers, and agree with all of you. If you've been to my channel, I always say FEMS, which is food, energy, medicine, and security, which, not necessarily in that order, but I guess food is number one, because again, you can go a long way. But I love that you guys talked about the financial. As you know, I definitely do the videos on that kind of stuff. And it is true. I mean, if you're just sitting there pissing away your money and you don't really have your financial game in order, then you're setting yourself up for failure. And it really is important to have your bills paid and to not take on a bunch of credit and debt. And I've seen people say, oh, I'm gonna SHF. I'm just gonna go out and get a credit card and just buy everything there. It's like, well, that's not really a plan. That's kind of stupid, because eventually everything will come back down to earth. So yeah, financial important, all of that. FEMS, yes, food, energy, medicine, security.
Cash.
Cash, yep.
Cash is
cash
key.
Is a prep.
Make mattress money great again.
Yes.
If I don't have anything else, but I got a bag full of cash, I can go solve some problems with that bag of cash. Now, yeah, there's a time when cash might be worthless, but that's not today yet. So a bag of money can get you out of problems.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
That might if the dollar becomes worthless, no, not so much, but until that happens,
to
a bag
your
of cash
point,
can be very valuable.
To your point, that even if the dollar eventually becomes worthless, it's not worthless right away. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it takes time.
It's going to have some fiscal value, and if you see that it's that bad, that's when you say, you know what, I got that X amount of cash in the coffee bin or whatever in the drawer. I'm going to go and top off with X, Y, and Z. While I can still get it, and I don't have to bring, a shopping cart full of ones to whatever buy a bread like they did in Venezuela. So yeah, that's 100% spot on.
I have a question for everybody. I've heard it said before that the day will come when we should all max the plastic, because after that, everything's going to shit. Do you really think that day will ever come, or are they going to come collect no matter what? Like after the nukes fly, is MasterCard going to be, calling you up asking what the heck is going on? But do you guys think that day will ever come?
I think the power will go out before that day comes. I don't think there'll be anything to charge. There'll be no systems in place to accept or deny. So
you wouldn't get to swipe because it would all collapse.
Yeah.
I got friends in Utah. They got a big, how do you want to say it, memory center out there where they download all the information.
Oh yeah. Yep.
The second the power does come back on, they're going to want their money.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to come looking for it unless you got a way to fall off the grid entirely. I believe that is the first thing that all these big companies have in place is the redundancy in those systems, so they can get their money or come after you for it after the fact. So I'm not sure that maxing out the credit card is a good idea all the way around.
I agree.
Well, I hear people use that. People use that as an excuse to max them out. I'm going to just live for the day. I hear a lot of young people say that, and I'm like, I don't do that, please. Because
that's what scares me.
That might come back when it comes back on. They're going to come after you. So
you want to know what freedom is? Not having to pay anybody, not having any debt.
That's true.
The day I paid my house off, that was one of the best days of my life, because at least I still got to pay, the government to keep my house through property taxes, but at least I don't have to, worry about not having a roof over my head. I mean, no matter what condition my house is in, I can still throw a tarp over the roof, and I can still crank something up to stay warm in here. It might be a shack, but it's paid for a shack.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next one. Of all the skills you could learn that you don't know right now, what would that skill be? We'll start with Roman Prepper.
All right. Well, when I saw that question, I was like, that's a good question. So I've decided earlier this year I was going to kind of make this ad hoc list of things that I never got around to learning because my kids were terrorists in the house and I was always fixing their stuff. And so among them was ham radio license.
That's a good one.
Get my FFL and my drone pilots. And it just so happened the drone pilot wound up coming up first. So as of right now, I'm an FAA 107 drone pilot. I actually have to get air traffic clearance, but I can also commercialize that if I so choose, which was a double utility. The drone is great, but for prepping purposes and reconnaissance and surveying, but I can also third party myself out. With my network of business, I've already spoken to local breweries and businesses, and they're like, yeah, whenever all your paperwork's in order, come see us and let's talk. The next one would be the ham radio. So those two, and I've already checked one off. So I'm headed for the
Roaming
ham
prepper,
radio next
holler
year.
at me. I got the ham radio hookup for you.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're gonna be giving a class. You can take most of it online, I believe. So
Beautiful.
I got you covered, buddy.
That's awesome. And anybody else, go to Hudson Valley's channel to get
Yes.
that. That's great. He teaches skills.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we try our best, man.
Gosh, I would say be more proficient as far as, I mean, I'm not novice, but as far as firearms, as far as self-defense, I could improve that. Now we do practice, we do, which is more than a lot of people do, but to be more proficient, to be a little more confident in it, you know, that's just comes to mind first.
Okay. All right, Hudson Valley, what do you got?
I think my biggest one that I've already started on the ham radio thing. I've got my foot in the door with that. I've got a technician license, but that only gets me a little bit. So I want to reach out for a general license so that I can talk across the country. I think that's kind of every prepper's dream, is just pick up the radio and hear from the guy in California, you know. But honestly, foraging is something I really want to learn this year, because I'm in the woods a lot. I do a lot of fishing. I do a lot of hunting. I do a lot of camping. I'm always out gear testing. So I really want to learn the medicinal and edible plants in my area. I think that would be super beneficial to anybody.
Awesome. All right, Modern Refugee, it's up to you.
Ham radio. That's what I've been working on. I have been working on it. I actually kind of started with the GMRS, and I've got that. I've been working on that, and I've listened to shortwave radio since I was like 12 years old. I've got multiple shortwave radios where you can kind of hear the propaganda from around the world, because most shortwave channels are run by government, so they're going to give their propaganda. But I really would like to get into the ham more, because we have people around here that kind of have set up solar on repeaters and stuff, and there's already sort of a local network in place, and I'd like to participate in that eventually. I know people that I know personally that are in those groups that they can use them repeaters and stuff, but I'm kind of easing myself into that, where I can get some benefit out of that down the road. So that's the one thing I'm working on, not to mention the general utility of being able to communicate with family and friends. Pretty much everybody in my neighborhood here has some kind of either GMRS radio or short range walkie-talkie. So if something happens, we can click that on and we can talk here in the neighborhood.
Awesome. Yeah, I communication to me, of course, that would be probably the biggest thing. So I guess you can chuck me onto the ham radio list, but mine is automotive. I wish I had the ability to fix numerous kinds of vehicles, and I was in the automotive industry for a very short time, and I know very rudimentary stuff, but I always have been fascinated by it. And I always remember I would wonder while watching, I was a big fan of The Walking Dead way back in the day, and I always wondered, like, how do these people get these vehicles to work? And like, just think how critical, to go back to what Modern Refugee would be, how important you would be as a mechanic to be able to fix, vehicles and all that. That would be such an SHTF skill. And then also being, a history teacher, I visited the S21 prison, and only a handful of people walked out of there from the Cambodian communist Khmer Rouge. And the reason why was most of them were mechanics. They needed it. They had to work on their truck. Go ahead.
I got a story on that, and I read this on a blog years ago, and it was during the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, and this guy had written down his experiences, and he said that he had somebody, him and his buddy were good. They were like 18, 19 years old. Him and his buddy were good at fixing cars, and somebody needed a car fixed, and the guy said, well, what do you want if you can fix my car? And he said, well, we haven't had anything to eat in a couple of days. And he said, well, I'll fix your car, bring us something to eat. So they fixed his car. About 2 hours later, the guy came back. They had the car running, and the guy brought a a pan of bacon and fried potatoes and a pint of vodka and gave it to these 2 kids. And they said that was the best food they ever had in their life is what they got. And that was because they knew how to fix this other guy who had some food and knew how to fix their car. And you saying that PN about fixing your car, one of the things that is a good prep to have for that, get one of those little code readers that you can plug into the computer of your car. And it tells you what's wrong with your car. They're not that expensive, and they come with kind of like a little book that tells you what the different codes mean. That right there is a solid $40-$50 prep that can be very, very valuable. And I do have one of those myself.
That is an excellent one. You know, I about 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, my car, the check engine light came on. I drive a 2009, Toyota, and went over to AutoZone because they didn't have one of those things. They plugged it in. They told me it was some, coolant valve or whatever. And sure enough, I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, it doesn't seem really important. You got to deal with it now. But sure enough, about a day or two later, I was driving and like all the warning lights on my car like lit up, and I went straight over to Toyota. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but it was a $600-700 fix, but still, like it because that reader thing, it kind of told me what the area of concern was, went in, and it just probably saved me a little bit of money because I had an idea. So excellent idea on the code reader as a prep. Yep. All right. Do you think America will be around in the year 2050? Roaming prepper, you're up. It was a tough one.
2050, probably. I don't know, 2100, maybe not. And would it be in its current form? That's something I would struggle with.
Conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation. I think the way the Republic is structured kind of has gone through some stuff the last 6-7 years, and despite riots, has not completely come apart. But there is a tip over point, and we'll have to see where it goes. And then that's not including like the cyber attack earlier, because we're a very connected society, more so than most. So if that goes off for a period of time, what you'll have is the Republic of Texas and its alliance with Louisiana and Oklahoma making their own country until a bigger government comes back. So I would think so, but it's hard to rule out because you have these, those black swan type situations that we couldn't predict.
Okay. Prepperdawg, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's an interesting question. That makes me think. I think not as we know it. I think probably
a lot of people said that in the chat.
More balkanization. I could see us really even breaking up into several little territories, just based on ideological lines, or that way. Or if it's still together, then much weaker. Not having the type of influence that we have right now in the world. I mean, okay. I think we would just be just a large land mass, or we could be like North America, like the country of North America, or a territory like that.
Yep. Okay. Very good. Hudson Valley, what do you think?
I think America is here to stay, baby. I think we've been around for 250 plus 260 plus years now, and we are very young as a nation. When you look at history, China's been around as long as the Earth's been spinning, but the United States is very young, and I think these are the growth pains of a young nation. I think we might see some more stars on the flags. But I think the United States of America, it will remain the United States of America for the foreseeable future. You look at empires that ruled, that they last a long time, man. They have their ebbs and flows, and they're superpowers, and then they're just powers, and then they're nobody eventually, but for a long time, they're somebody. So I think we're still in our infancy here, and I think these are the growth pains of a young nation.
Very good. Excellent. Modern Refugee, what do you think? Are we going to be around in 2050 or?
Yeah, I think the United States is going to be around in 2050, just like, China and Russia and stuff. The country might be here, but like Dog said about the balkanization, I don't see a balkanization as like a couple of states are going to form their own country. I see it more as people getting into groups with their ideology, I guess is the best way I can put it. I think we're going to see more of that separation of, well, you can take it as city versus rural people. You're going to see people kind of come together as under ideological ideals compared to like geographical lines. And especially with technology, I think with technology, that's going to be more easier to accomplish than it would have been, 100 years ago. But I can see people forming into groups and kind of doing their own thing and doing it that way, because eventually I think it's going to come to a point where, even the people that are neutral now are going to be forced to pick a side of whatever, ideology that they want to be a part of. It might come down to that. I guess that's how I look at it.
Okay. There's a term that Hudson used, and I've used it many times: secessio plebis, and
Amen.
It's basically, you kind of what you were saying, Modern Refugee, where you're in the country, but you're not in the country. You've kind of tapped out, and like you were saying with the bills, you do everything you can, and everything is as bare minimum, where you're not as tied to the system as you can be, because you just you don't want to be a part of it. It's not your thing. But I do worry about balkanization. I am in an area that has already tried more of a ceremonial secession from the greater state of Maryland to stand. But yeah, our three counties out west in Western Maryland, we wanted to separate because we didn't like what was going on in DC and in Maryland in the eastern portion. So I see like potential there, but I don't know how or when. I don't know. It's complicated, and this one was kind of the kind of question I put out there is like, I want to hear what you have to say, but I really don't have a good answer either. And I agree, we are kind of a young country. We're still have a lot of life left in us, and every time I think that things are getting kind of crazy, we tend to at least get back to some form of a base level okay, but we'll see as things go, because there's a lot of people said in here, I don't recognize this country to where it was when I was growing up, and I unfortunately agree, but it doesn't mean we can't, the pendulum swings back, so we shall see.
Do you see the balkanization as a bad thing? Or is that is that kind of like a lining of the houses, and maybe there's less quarrel and more get shit done, man?
I do and I don't. My worry about balkanization, honestly, is that separate we're going to be easier to target, and a Russia, a China, a whoever, they would have a lot easier time going after us in parts than we will be if we were together. There's people that say that's what a lot of the, our adversaries that are trying this kind of 5th gen warfare with us are doing, is that they're trying to perpetuate those ideological divides. And the reason why is because they know that separated, we're going to be an easier to take us out than we would be put together. So that's why I think our states' rights are so important. If you want to California, go California. If you want to Texas, then go Texas. And the thing is, it's like, as every state, like people think, my wife's from upstate New York. I go there all the time. Upstate New York is not New York City by any sense of the imagination.
Not even close.
No, not even close.
Different world.
Oh man. And so, it is what it is. I think the more we keep it together, but the more, as Modern Refugee was saying, we allow people to get into those ideological groupings and have that coexist, the better we'll be. But the question is, will we be able to do that? I don't know. So very good. Why do you think it is important to become a prepper right now in the year 2024 going into 2025? Roman Prepper, we give it to you.
Sure. Well, you think about it. If the last 4 years didn't demonstrate the need between the hurricanes, the flooding in Carolina, the Rona, the riots, I mean, literally, we could make a video. The group of us could do one live stream like this on each of those subtopics and go for months, once
Oh,
a
yeah.
week. Now would be a great time because now you kind of have seen firsthand what happens when the supply chain goes out, what happens when there's a massive flood, what happens when people panic. You've seen it firsthand, and it should inform you where your gaps are, because it absolutely did that to me, where I looked and said, you know what, the toilet paper thing, that was kind of comical, but the guy filling his truck with gasoline in a tarp, a pickup truck, and then driving away with, probably 100 gallons in the bed, that is panic and stupidity. But that guy could catch fire in my subdivision and burn half the houses down. So
True.
you've just been given an example. Now, if the economy settles, which I hope it will, you might now have an opportunity to buy things as the price is dropping. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
If they can alleviate this inflation, which is pretty dug in, unfortunately, now would be a good time to start making that list. Well, what would I need if this happens again? And you've got an example, and now just wait for the prices to be right.
Okay. Prepperdawg, you're up.
Yeah, I would say, with the new administration coming in, with Trump coming in, I think that a lot of people are like, well, everything is going to go back to 2017 or 2018, but I don't think so. I don't, at least not right away. It might take some time. I can remember when Reagan took over after the Carter administration, and it took, I don't know, it took a couple of 2-3 years to start turning the ship around, but it did. So I think right now is the time not to just sit and think everything's going to be fine. I don't need to do a thing. I can just live like I did way back in the day and everything's good. I don't need to worry about anything popping up, or the prices, the prices aren't coming down right away, and they probably won't. Inflation will continue. The food prices are going to continue up there for a while. Hopefully they start coming down, especially if we can get back to being more energy independent like we were before. Because if that happens, then I think that ripples into the other parts of the economy and brings prices down, but it won't be overnight. So I think it's important for people to think that, hey, I need to keep, if I've been doing some prepping, continue, don't stop now. Think, oh, everything's okay now, I can just sit. If they've never prepped before, I don't know if they ever will. If you've, like Roaming said, if you've been witnessing what's going on the last 4 years and you didn't think it was necessary, I don't know. I can't help you, I don't think.
Well, I think it created a lot of new preppers. It certainly boosted the
Yeah.
entry.
Absolutely.
But if at this point, like you say, if by now you've had 4 years of various types of calamities, and you're still like, no, they'll help us. I was in the Guard during Harvey, and I will tell you, infrastructure, hospitals, and shelters, we had designated, if you were in the middle of a subdivision, you were on your own. Even the local cops couldn't come to you in a timely manner. So it's not that they don't want to help. You can't. They're like, get the water supply running. That's a priority for 1 million folks. Mr. McMuffin over there has someone breaking into his house. Don't have the manpower to help you.
Yeah.
But again, to your point, if they haven't seen that by now, it'd probably be a hard sell.
Yep. All right. So what do you think, Hudson?
I think it's never going to be cheaper than it is right now to get going. Honestly, hit the sales, hit them hard. If you have a family, I mean, just take a look at your kids, take a look around you, and what are you going to do when you can't go to the store? Are you going to tell them, I'm sorry, I can't feed you today? That for me, that's just not an option. And that's something that just lights a fire in me to do more, not just for myself, but for my community, to ring the bell and to say, get prepared, folks, do something. Don't just sit around. Nobody's coming to save you. It's huge, man. You have to take these steps now. And I think it's never been cheaper. And if the tariffs go into place, the gear and things that you may require for a bug out bag or something like that, all that stuff's going to go up in price because there's not a whole lot of it made here in America. Get it while you can. Buy real stuff with the fake money now before it's worthless.
Amen. Modern Refugee, what do you think?
Well, I guess I'm going to put it like this, like what Roaming said. Everybody's had a little taste of SHTF now. And the next time, I think it's going to get worse if something happens. And it's always the economic impact of things. You know, I worked with a lot of old timers, and I asked them, you know, when were the kind of the bad economic times? And what they told me is, you know, the election years when there was a change in administrations had a tendency of being down economic years. And those, you know, we're facing that exact same thing now here again. We got a kind of a general idea of what's going to take place, but, you know, there's always different things that can affect it. And we have, like you said, there's a hybrid conflict going on right now that has a tendency to affect the supply chain and our day-to-day lives. And that always has economic impact. So, you know, prepping for bad economic times, whether you miss work because you're sick or you lose a job. And then two, with technology increasing, technology is going to transform the workplace in the next 4 years like we have never seen before. And how that's going to all pan out yet, it's a wait and see type thing.
Well, I agree with you there. In fact, that nice parlay into the next question, but I think it's important to become a prepper just on, you know, for just basic stuff. As I opened, I mean, we are here because of prepping, and the less we have to rely on the system and the less we are a burden, the more we can not only help our families, but we can also help ourselves. And so, I don't know, prepping is just always something I've just I don't know, I've just had a natural attraction to it. And now, you know, I live with a wife that is a minimalist. And so we have to come up with ways where we have everything, but it's not like visual clutter, as she likes to say. So like our kitchen, we have completely redone it. We've added shelving and stuff, and we're putting it there so we can have all of our preps. But at the same time, she doesn't have to look at them. But the main thing is that we know, and she knows, and my kids know when I took them, you know, because all our stuff used to be over at our mother-in-law's, but she's moving. And so we're transferring it over here because she had what we affectionately called the bug out farm. But like my kids would go down to our prep room and I remember my daughter's about 6 years old now, you know, 13. She said, this is daddy's, you know, room where he's, you know, helps us or whatever, something like that.
That's awesome.
And it's just like, yeah, it was just like a really cool moment. Because to me, it's like she knew that I'm taking care of business. So if something ever goes on, I can be there, and I will never have to look myself in the mirror and say, you know what, I didn't do everything I could not to be prepared and ready for any kind of a terrible situation. And I know all of you gentlemen are the same way with that. So
you need to tell
if you're go ahead.
You need to tell mother prepper now that clutter is good camouflage.
That's true.
And you know, if there are new preppers out there who see this or are already in the chat, you don't have to be. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
No,
right?
no.
It's
a journey.
So don't try to be where PrepperNow is tomorrow.
Yeah,
you know, then you run into the credit card issue.
It takes
well,
years,
you know, and I go ahead. Modern.
Oh, I was gonna say it takes years. You know, it took me years to get a generator here for the house and get it transfer switch and hooked up and then converted to propane. That just doesn't happen overnight. I mean, that took a couple of years of you know, work and squirreling money away and doing a little bit here and there. There's the only way that you can be a prepper overnight, you'd have to have hundreds of people working on it and millions of dollars worth of resources.
And I say that on mine, you know, I'll talk about the financials and stuff. And, you know, at the end, I always try to bring it back to prepping and why it's important. And I'll tell them, like, even if you're just going out and you're getting like a couple cans a day, or you only have $10 a week, you know, you can take that and turn it into something. Sure, it doesn't seem like a lot at the time, but when you look back after a year, you know, you've got an entire shelf worth of stuff, and that'll sustain you for a good amount of time. And all you did was just put a little bit away. And like you said, this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. It's absolute truth. So, okay, so to parlay with what Modern said in my next question, what are your thoughts about artificial intelligence? And so I'm going to go to Roaming Prepper on that, because it is here and it is affecting things.
Yes. Man, I got mixed feelings. You know, I love science. I love new tech. You know, I think it's part of the evolution of mankind. But like anything else, if we don't monitor and manage correctly, and sadly, historically we've not done a good job of such management of things, I could see it running amok. More importantly, and I think Elon said it, and Elon says some bizarre things, but he said one thing. He said AI concerns him not because of what AI will do in and of itself, but that a bad actor will say, you know what, I can use this as a tool to do something horrendous. And I could see that route being taken. The other fear I have is it could remove opportunities for people to be employed, to grow. It needs to be watched and managed carefully. We've got college kids now trying to do their whole paper on like ChatGPT.
Oh yeah.
And you know, they're not learning anything. And then I see it on the professional end. They come out of school, they come to me, and I ask them on the fly in the middle of nowhere, okay, what's going on here? And they have no answers. And I'm like, you're going to get fired soon because this is terrible. Yeah, I don't think if it's allowed to just roam free without some kind of barriers, it's going to cause a bit of harm in that respect.
Yeah. Good answer. Prepperdawg, what do you think?
I think similar. I think it has the potential to have really good uses, especially maybe with medical, you know, and technology. But if it's not managed, then it can run amok, just like Roaming said. And my fear there is that it gets in the hands of terrorists or the bad actor, you know, the nefarious, and it can do a lot of harm, you know. So it's already here. It's already here more than we realize. But it has the potential to be very harmful and take over. I think it does have the potential to get to a point to where, and it may be getting close now, to where it's like, what is real? You know, like when you see somebody on TV give an interview, or somebody's voice, or so-and-so said that, well, did they really say it? Or did the AI, did somebody generate that? And then it sways the public opinion, and in a way that's hard to reverse it back. And, you know, is that a real person up there? Is that, you know, somebody generated that? You know, that's something I've thought about.
Good point. Hudson, what do you think?
I agree with Prepperdawg. And I think that AI is about to be in everybody's face. When you upgrade your devices now, you're going to be handed something that has built-in AI assistance. When you use them, you are going to constantly feed this AI every time you pick up your device. Everything you click on, everything you do, it's going to learn to be you. Their stated goal is to make your life better. It wants to be your AI personal assistant. It wants to be your right-hand man. It wants to do the thinking for you. And that's a really scary thought, because we've got a whole shitload of smartphones and a shitload of dumb people. We used to have dumb phones and smart people, and now we've kind of reversed those roles. People walk around with a supercomputer in their pocket and say, "Oh, I didn't know that." It's like, well, you have a supercomputer in your pocket, man. You can figure this stuff out. Common sense is damn near a superpower, and that's what worries me. The AI knows that people don't have common sense anymore, and it's learning this stuff. And the more people pump into it, the more it's going to learn.
It's like the movie WALL-E.
It is.
People became stupid, and the computers basically were taken over.
I think I think, like Prepperdawg said, it definitely has its strong points, man. In medical advancements, this thing can detect cancers years before some of the other stuff can.
Yeah.
But it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's Pandora's box, and if we keep feeding it, I think we're unfortunately going to find out when one of these self-piloting F-35s takes off and decides it's had enough of our shit. So
Yeah.
I think Mr. Musk is right, and we need to build a bigger box to put this thing in to make sure that it can't get out.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of the smartest guys in the world, so I'm gonna go ahead and take his word for it on that one.
Although if a Tesla smacked a carjacker to the ground with its door, that would make me so happy. I'm just throwing that out there.
Starts throwing punches. Modern Refugee, you had I'm interested in your opinion on this. AI, what do you think?
Well, I guess I look at AI. I look at it as malevolent, I guess is the best way to put it. And the thing with AI is there's a bunch of people sitting around just like we are talking right now, trying to figure out how to put everybody out of work by using technology, and that is the big thing. And back in 2018, I'm sitting around a campfire with friends of ours, and we were just talking about the world. And the one guy that I knew, who works for one of the big manufacturing places around here, said, and I said, "What's going on with your job?" And he says, "Well, a bunch of guys from this company came in and they talked to the engineers for 5 days, and they said, we need some type of robot or technology to do this. If you can come up with this, we'll give you a ton of money if you can get this worked out." And that was how many years ago? All the people, like pretty much everybody on this panel here, can be replaced by some type of technology.
True.
But now what are you going to do with the masses and masses of people that no longer have an income? Now you got something like the movie Elysium on your hands. How are you going to manage all of us when we can't make an honest living anymore? Idle hands are the devil's workshop. So a lot of bad things, I think, are going to come out of AI, and I think it's going to outweigh the good things that could come out of it. I guess that's just my opinion on that anyway.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm a big fan of Aldous Huxley, and I see like a future where there are people that are literally outside the system completely, that aren't in it, that are just savages in their minds, and just are kind of, because they don't want to be a part of it, but also because AI has taken over and done everything. I actually tell my students, I say, this has never been a more important time for you guys to really be on the ball and getting those kind of skills and not screwing around, because AI is going to come in and take all that middle management stuff. My wife's medical group is bringing it in to do all of the medical coding. There's all kinds of stuff in education now where it's coming in, and you shouldn't rely on it to be giving you answers and stuff, but it takes what you're working on and polishes it. So there's a lot of benefits, but at the same time, I forget which one of you said it, but putting it into all of the upgrades whenever we have new phones and new computers and all those assistants and all that kind of stuff, it's really going to take it's really going to take the George Orwellian thing to the next level. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
You look at AI in a military context. If they use AI to put down all our enemies and all the bad guys go away, who do you think they're going to turn that AI on next? It's going to be us.
Oh yeah.
And that's the other thing. How can we use this to monitor and regulate and do, everything to, the average person? The average person is the one that always gets the brunt of everything. Anyway, I went off on a tangent again. Sorry, man.
No, it's all good.
Not at all.
Hey,
Prepperdawg, did you have something to say? Prepperdawg,
yeah, I was just going to say real quick. I think I'm trying to remember who said it. I think Hudson Valley said it, maybe, about how if you upgrade when you upgrade your technology devices, you really see it. We just upgraded a laptop, and just last week, and wow, setting that up, because the old laptop I was using was almost 8 years old when it died, but this new one is something else. I mean, and going through all of its uploads and all that kind of stuff, the questions that it's asking.
Yeah.
wow, just in a few years difference.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it's like, and I was telling Mrs. Dog about it, and I'm like, this is what, and she's watching, and she's like, it's like alive, it's like
Yeah.
a live thing almost there, compared to what we've had before.
Those assistants are going to be built into everything. Yeah. Everybody's got their own. Apple has theirs. Google has theirs. There's so many of them. The best way to do it is just unplug from it altogether. Go get yourself a dumb brick phone. Make a phone call. Call somebody. Send a text message. That's it. You don't need a smartphone. You got a computer. You got a laptop. You got everything else. It might be time to reverse our technology and start working backwards, man. I get a cup and a string, and I'm calling Prepperdawg tomorrow.
Passenger pigeon.
I like your style.
If it doesn't work anymore, you can always eat the messenger, right?
There you go.
Well said.
Not those New York City pigeons. Ooh, nope.
All right, so we're getting towards the end here because I don't want to go too long. I know you gentlemen have lives and stuff, but I want to give it out to the community here. I just want to see if you guys have a question you would like to ask the panel. I'll pick one and we'll let everybody go around, and then we'll go around from there. But yeah, any questions you guys have for us all on anything, try to keep it, to prepping, and of course try to be respectful, which my mods are doing a great job. I know people, come in and get a little salty sometimes, but for the most part, it looks like everything's been pretty chill in the chat. But yeah, if you have a question for the panel, put it in all caps real quick, and we'll see if we can't give some kind of an educated answer or whatever. And if I don't see something the next minute, we'll just kind of roll it out and give final thoughts by everything. How do you mix up Reagan and Carter? That's a very good question. I'm not going to answer it, but there you go again. Let's see. Okay, there we go. That's it right there. Johnny Finance. What Black Swan event do you see for 2025? All right, we'll go. You take it from here, roaming prepper. You're up.
That's a good question. One that would concern the heck out of me, which is something we've all talked about, is again the closer to home kind of issues. We've got during the Ellis Island years, we had 25 million people come in over, or was it 20 million people over 30 years? And we've just had 20 million come in 4 by our best estimate. Wow. 15, the numbers vary, but it's a huge number. And until I heard the Ellis Island numbers, I didn't realize the gravity of that. There's no way you can't tell me bad players have come in. And I'm not just talking about Al-Qaeda's. I'm talking about legit operatives, trained people. Somebody, I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was Dog or PrepperNow had mentioned a large event. You wouldn't have to knock down the World Trade Center again.
No.
It can be hit a bunch of power stations or cause 10 derailments all on the same day. Something bizarre, purely to cause panic. And you would watch this country just come to a screeching halt.
Yes.
It happened during 9/11. My offshore crews were stuck for 2 weeks because nobody was allowed to fly. There were F-16s going over the drilling rigs.
Yep.
And that was a very specific event in 1 or 2 places. That is something that scares me. And also it's easier to hack stuff within the country, but we don't know who's here. And I mean, hell, even if it's 10 million, 1% of 10 million is a huge number. And if just 1% are bad players and operatives, that's a big problem. That's a 5th column right there.
Absolutely correct. Prepperdawg.
Yeah, I would say similar. There's a potential that with all the people we have in here that we know not much about, imagine if just a fraction of them people, all the millions are coordinated, carry out something coordinated, planned, trained, and widespread. Maybe even something like an attack. We have so many soft targets here, like the Hamas attack against the villages in Israel. something like that on a mass scale, that worries me. How many people are really, and I know a lot of people are armed and all that kind of stuff in the country, but how ready is your typical neighborhood for something like that at a moment's notice? Not really.
Good answer. I mean, not a good thing, but but
Right.
informed answer. Hudson Valley, what do you think?
I think nuclear. I think it's going to be nuclear. I don't think. I think it's going to be somebody trying to point the dirty bomb size.
Okay.
But enough to set all the detectors off and get everybody freaking out. And I think it's going to be one group blaming another group. And who knows who really done it? I don't know if we'll ever know the truth, if it ever happens, up to who actually perpetrates these things. But I think, the stage has kind of been set for it. You look at the global stage right now, and that's basically, the play is we're all going to get nuked, and it's starring, well, we don't know yet. We got to wait till they pull the curtain back.
Sure.
But I think that's going to be the play. I hope to God it doesn't go all out. That's what I hope for, but I'm buying a gas mask, man.
Okay. Yep. Modern refugee, Black Swan.
The thing I guess that I am concerned about the most is some type of destabilizing event, and I think that would take place something like knocking out communications, knocking out the supply chain, hitting something like taking down air traffic control, and of course there's always electricity, something that would disrupt the internet, something that would disrupt debit cards and those electronic means of payment. And then, of course, the aftermath of something like that. So all those things, then you get the population mad, and the population is fed up with this or that, and you have that cascading destabilizing event. Destabilizing regimes has been kind of the flavor of the decade. There's regimes falling all over the place because of destabilizing events taking place, brought on by other countries, other groups, whatever, who says that can't be done to us. And the population now is sort of fed up with the control structure, and I can see somebody taking that animosity and turning that against us using some type of technological means. I guess that's the best way I can put it in a nutshell.
Okay. I personally think we're heading in for a recession, and they're gonna set it up that 2025 is going to have a lot of financial problems. I don't think a depression, but I see a lot of there's the stock market it's so due for a correction and everything, and I see something like a chicken flu or something like that, kind of what happened in March of 2020, come in and not quite as a size, but just enough to really kick the financials in the gonads, and then from there, we have a bit of a financial hit, or I possibly see chicken flu type thing, or even a coordinated event, some kind of a 9/11 type thing, something where there is a terrorist attack. What exactly that is, where it is, how it is, I don't know, but something that is really destabilizing and just kind of hurts the country and makes it so we're all looking over our shoulders. So I'd say that's my my Black Swan event for 2025. So, well, gentlemen, let's give you a minute for a final thoughts on everything, and then we'll let you go. I would like to do this again and host it on another channel, and not ball hog, as I like to say. So hopefully we can talk about that in the background. But Roaming Prepper, final thoughts.
Well, we covered a lot of territory today, and thank you for having all of us. It's great. My schedule is garbage, as all four of you know. So I've popped in and all of you randomly at weird times. So it's nice that we all made it to one event. I'd encourage everyone, continue doing what you're doing. Stay on a budget. Don't expose yourself to debt, and don't attract attention. Be discreet. For those of you who had mentioned in the chat that you don't have the support of family members, repackage prepping as saving in bulk and pre-making meals, so we have convenience. You know, you can ship, you know, spaghetti and meatballs. That's a way for you to do what you need to do and not get flack. And you know, if something happens, you're like, oh, by the way, look what I canned and is in the pantry.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a genius. But continue doing what you're doing. And if you haven't started, don't try to get where we are in one day. Take your time, set some goalposts, and just do that.
Awesome. Prepperdawg, you're up.
Well, I've enjoyed this. Definitely. It's a lot of great information, and I always learn something in these. But I would say don't get complacent. Keep stacking. And, you know, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So let's keep doing what we're doing. And that's my big message right now.
Awesome. Hudson?
One, thank you. Now, really appreciate you having us all here tonight. What a great conversation with everybody. It's so great to sit and chat with everybody.
Yes.
I think the biggest thing for people to take away is preparedness does not have to be bougie. You do not have to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on stuff.
No.
You can get by with the basics. It does not have to be bougie. If it works, it works. It doesn't matter what it costs. So keep that in mind, guys. It doesn't have to be the biggest, the best. It just has to work for you. And preparedness is extremely personal, so make sure you fit it to yourself.
Absolutely agree. Modern Refugee.
First of all, you know, I'd like to thank everybody here, and I'm actually subscribed to all you guys, and I have been for a long time.
Me too.
And it's really great talking to everybody here. Look at the old skills. Look at the old stuff. It got the old timers through World War I, through the Depression, through the Dust Bowl, through World War II. You're a lot more resilient than you think you are. And as far as, you know, if you got family members and friends and stuff that aren't into prepping, you do you, man. You take care. You just keep doing what you're doing. You don't worry about them. Don't worry about what they say to you. You just keep doing your thing, and they'll come around when something happens. I mean, everybody's got to be their self to a certain extent, but there's a lot of old things out there that got people through a lot of bad times. You know, look at your local area. Everybody's got resources in their local area, whether it's a fruit tree just down the street that people just rake the apples up and throw them out because, you know, they don't know what to do with them. I'll guarantee every person watching this has some type of resource around their neighborhood if they just take the time to stop and look for it. It's out there.
Yep. Absolutely agree. I say, you know, you can get all kinds of free stuff on Craigslist, or I found a free fan on the side of the road for my classroom. I was driving there. It was, picked it up, went home, plugged it in. Sure enough, worked perfectly. I still use it to this day. I mean, you don't have to prep, you know, spending money or anything. You can find all kinds of stuff. You can use old pallets and turn them into all kinds of different things. There's many different things you can do. You don't have to. I like that. Be bougie in your
That's right.
in your prepping.
That's
but
right.
Folks, just keep prepping. I mean, we don't know what's going to come, whatever. But the good news is if you're able to handle whatever it is that comes your way, and have a little bit of food, a little bit of energy, a little bit of medicine and security and your people, and take care of your family and friends and all that to the best of your abilities, we as a nation are going to be we're going to be all right. So, gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. Of course, we'll talk for a moment afterwards. I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy, folks. Folks, please subscribe to these great channels and tell people. I definitely want to do this again, and we'll see about setting another one up in the near future. To everybody else, God bless you all. Thanks so much. And as I say, stack, stock, stick to your plan. Keep your hand to swivel and your powder dry. And we appreciate you coming by PrepperNow. And please visit Roaming Prepper, Prepperdawg, Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival, and of course, Modern Refugee. Folks, have a great night. We'll see you on the next one.
You guys take care.